remember that. I was having problems charging it because the generator started to go. I mean, when we were up there, the generator started to, like, just randomly shut off, and there was no reason for that. It would run for like 45 minutes and it just quit. And so there was so much weird stuff going on that we weren't with Mary's car dying and having to jump other people in the camp place itself, and batteries dying on the camera equipment. I mean, everything. I don't quite know what it was, but something up there was having such an electric effect on us, or what have you. I mean, people can make whatever assumptions they want to about what happened. From that perspective, I mean, people will want to say we were abducted or what have you. I can't prove that. I don't have any recollection of it, but I do know that all this weird stuff started to happen with the electronics, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But
yeah, matter of fact, let's now skip over to, and we'll go to our conversations in the morning when we tried to figure out what the heck happened to this missing 1 hour of time, which ended up maybe being more than an hour. But while that happened to us at Takalaka Lake, Lee, tell us what happened on top of the mountain that night.
Oh, I was explaining the pile of rocks, basically the half-moon circles that they put up there to guard against the wind. Well, we went to bed. There's 2 tents, myself in one, and the camera guy and Soap Wade in the other one. Camera guy wakes up and notices there is a light outside the tent, which to me seems to be impossible that it would have come from a climber or something because of those walls. So, I mean, they're 5 foot tall or so, 4 to 5 foot tall. He's saying the light's coming from above the tent that he noticed, but he looked at his watch and it was like, I want to say it was like 1 something in the morning, he said.
Well, actually, I remember you saying initially it was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
AM.
Okay, then
when he looked at his,
you probably wrote it down.
Yep, I did.
I have not. So
which is going to be significant in a few minutes when we tell you what happened back down at Takalaka Lake. But the weird thing is, he wakes up in the middle of the night and he sees these multiple lights plying on the top of the tent that he's in, and on top of you guys' tent. He pulls out his watch and checks the time, and
right.
then what does he do?
He just says, well, it's, whatever, and he just goes back to sleep, which is, kind of commonplace for things like that. We don't think much of them, and we're not supposed to, I guess. But
I think you're right. Matter of fact, you would think that something like that is happening in the middle of the night up, 10,000 plus feet in the air, and there's nothing above you. As far as anybody being able to shine something down onto your tent. And
right.
he doesn't wake up Philip, who's in the same tent with him, or yourself. He goes back to sleep. That was interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, Michael, because the types of people that I talk to whenever I do some interviews and things like that, it's amazing to me how many people at the time didn't think it was weird.
Right.
And it's so strange that, I mean, if I'm at home and something like that happens, I get up and if I hear a bird hit the window, I'm up in the middle of the night, checking to make sure there's nobody breaking in. But it's so strange that when we get into these paranormal situations, whenever this happens, that it's almost like we're under anesthetic or something.
Exactly.
We go back to sleep. And that's you just don't even think about it. And then people say, "Well, how can you even act like that?" Well, it's just because it doesn't register at the time. It's almost like being anesthetized. That's the only way I can really describe it.
Oh, exactly. Right. We've heard that many, many times with the reports that the UFOI team has heard of close encounters and abduction, experiences. But also, Lee, in the morning when you guys woke up. And we're getting ready to come back down the mountain. I want you to tell people what happened to Philip Wade's lower back right on his spine. Tell us what happened there.
Well, he didn't mention it when he woke up. It wasn't until we were almost down to the vehicles that he said, "Man, my back's, really, lower back really hurts." And we're like, "What?" And come to find out, he had gotten, we don't know what it is, but it looks like a wound of some sort. I actually have a picture of the wound. Michael, have you seen that?
Oh, I have seen it. It's just right in his lower back, exactly on his spine.
Right, and which is reminiscent from some of the abduction stuff that's happened with me, with the spinal stuff. So,
yes,
of course, that raises my cockles right away.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that not only that weird thing happened that night, and who knows whether you guys had a missing time, because obviously he went back to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and didn't wake anybody up. But in the morning, Philip Wade had this massive wound on his lower back right over his spine. And we have pictures of that as well. I think it's up on the UFOI Team Facebook page. If it isn't, we'll try to get his permission to put it up there. But let's jump back now to the campground at Takalak Lake, where Kevin Beagle and myself start talking over a cup of hot tea in the morning about what happened last night. And you were the one, Kevin, who brought it up that, what time did you say it was when you came back into the pop-up trailer? And I said, oh, was it 4:30? I said, and he says, yeah, that's what I remember. And then we started thinking, well, wasn't it 3:30 when you left? And how long were you gone? And I'm thinking, wow, I couldn't have been gone very long at all, just a couple of minutes at the most. And that got us to thinking. So what I did, just so you know, as a follow-up, and I've put this up on the Facebook, UFOI Team Facebook page as well, is that I get a printout from my CPAP machine, which is a very highly sophisticated computer, actually, of how long I used the machine, what kind of sleep quality I got, how many times I took the mask off, and those kinds of things every night. Matter of fact, I just posted a year-end sleep report that I have from my entire use of the CPAP machine. It's up on the Facebook page. People can check that out. And that night, when I printed out the graph of because normally I'll sleep 7-8 hours, 9 hours if I can, sleep in on a Saturday or whatever. That night, my CPAP machine says for August 27th, 2018, that it was only used for 1 hour and 50 minutes, less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that's got to be scientific evidence of something. I don't know what, but the fact that we've got some missing time, conscious missing time, and then we have scientific evidence of some kind of non-use of a CPAP machine, because if indeed it only got to be used for 1 hour and a half, that kind of picks up the time from 1:30 or 3:30 or whatever when I woke up, and then the rest of the night, supposedly not even using it. And you said yourself you were in a fog that kind of same time. So, and of course, at the top of the mountain, that thing's going on at 3 o'clock in the morning at the top of Mount Adams. So now we've got, 7 minutes left, and I don't know if we're going to get into all of the other anomalies, but let me just basically really quick say that there was Bigfoot activity as well as anomalous magnetic effects. And Kevin, you want to jump into the Bigfoot activity for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll get into the last of the magnetic effects, and we'll get out of here.
Well, basically, what I wanted to say is that it's very important. Obviously, if somebody's listening to this and saying, okay, well, how do you remember all this stuff and everything like that? You have to make contemporaneous notes. You're a lawyer, Michael. You've been trained in that to do that whenever, because you're dealing with these different types of things. I have had to do these different types of things, but as things come to you, you have to write them down. But the thing that was very important about the Bigfoot activity is that. And it's such a massive topic to try to bring it all together. I don't know if you could do it in 2 hours, but for example, we've in the camp that the Troy and the rest of the guys were in. There was a massive footprint that we found there. You have documentation of that. Troy was there. I would say that was at least a 14-inch print or track. Not to be disgusting, but something took a huge crap. And I have pictures of the crap, but I didn't post it. But by our tent, by our trailer and our campsite towards the sort of wilderness area, and by their campsite, there was 2 piles of crap, and separate, and
quite large, by the way. I'll admit that as well.
You would think, obviously the diameter of the colon and the rectum was huge, but I'm trying to be as nice as I can. But the thing about it is that unlike most situations, if you're a bushcrafter or you're a guy who goes out to the toilet in the woods or whatever, you dig a little hole next to a tree, you plant yourself with your back against the tree, and you squat down, and you take a crap so you don't get it all over your pants. It's right. Kind of mock toilet use. And this is exactly what it was. Something had to back up to the tree and take a crap. And so it wasn't just random in a pile in the middle of nowhere like a horse came by and took a poop or something like that. It was that. The other thing that was interesting too is that the Troy and Samara saw a shadow in the full moon light scenario walking around, and I had put out a trail cam, and the trail cam. I don't try to trick Bigfoot. A lot of people, try to think, well, this is what you do. I leave a camera out there. And I say, if you want to have a picture taken, do it, because I'm assuming they're smarter than us. I'm just trying to be quick. But anyway, something came around the back of it, opened it up, and turned it off and left it laying there. So something was moving around our area. Now, could that be a person? Yeah, I guess so. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't, in the middle of the wilderness, sneak around people's campsites.
Let alone shaking their pop-up tents, right?
Right.
Is what Sam said?
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the thing that's the bizarre thing about it is just such strange, anomalous types of things out. That one of the things that I wanted to say, too, is that because of the legends of sort of the portals of Mount Adams, people talk about Mount Adams having a doorway that opens and UFOs go into it and disappearing. There's a couple of different things that I've thought about, and one of them is sort of this portal to another this possible idea of a portal, and you've got all the different sort of things that you would need for that. You've got a high quartz content in the soil. I did the geological report. You've got hematite, you've got quartz, you've got all these different types of things that are all over the place. You've got ancient legends that talk about Mount Rainier and Mount Adams being locations of landing spots for the Yakama Nation people. And so, literally you could write a treatise or some sort of a doctoral thesis on what happened to us. I don't know.
Yeah. Actually,
just touching on that real quick, just touching on that very quickly.
Go ahead.
We do have that video of Mount Baker with all those lights that are going into the mountain.
Yes.
So up on our YouTube channel as well, just to
UFOI team
pass that on.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I tell you what, let me just bring up one last subject before we get out of here in about 3 minutes. But the idea being is that we ran across magnetic anomalies at the campsite there at Kakalak Lake that were astounding. Matter of fact, at one point, we sent out 4 different people in the UFOI team. Certainly, looks like we're we're gone already, you guys. So thank you for joining me tonight on Night Dreams Talker Radio.